The things that made you successful in the first place, you stop doing. And I think that is a danger that can happen to anyone. I poured everything at it, and then suddenly when it was working, I'm Kyle Racki, CEO of Proposify, and I've been running a business for the past 15 plus years since I was 24, and Proposify for the last 10 years. And so what I like to do is just share some of the lessons that I learned across product, marketing, sales, everything that I've learned running a business. So I remember when, we worked really hard for a long time to get Proposify off the ground, and you never thought it was really going to work. At the back of my head, I always say, build the tracks while the train barrels behind us. But then something clicked and it started to work, and we started to grow really quickly. Looking back, I got a little bit high on my own supply, because when everything's working, we're the darling startup in our local area here in Halifax, and I'm having like founders come up to me like, "Oh my God, you're the CEO of Proposify? Wow!" You start to believe it. You start to believe your own hype. And I think that, what happened is what's called the what the hell effect. So the things that made you successful in the first place, you stop doing. I think that is a danger that can happen to anyone. The kind of effort that I poured into the product and caring about every aspect of the business, and in marketing and sales and everything, customer support, just offering white glove service. Like, I poured everything at it in the beginning because it wasn't working. And then suddenly when it was working, I started to gradually, not immediately, but over time, stop doing those things, right? So one of the things that I did for a long time was everybody who signed up for our product got an automatic email from me saying, "Hey, thanks for signing up. Let me know why. I love talking to, people. Let me know if I can help." And that was always a way to stay really close in touch with the market, the customers, even people who weren't yet customers, right? I would have these conversations, I would book calls, and I just made it this regular habit to try to talk to every single customer that I could. But then what happens is we raised money, we started to scale, we had a lot bigger people, more teams, more complexity in the business. I felt like you're not supposed to do that stuff anymore. You're supposed to delegate it, and you're supposed to let other people take care of that. And I think looking back over time, I became more and more disconnected from the customer, from the business, from what was really happening. Actually, I think that goals can sometimes be harmful in that, yes, it's always good to have a goal, but like, think about it when a company says like, "Hey, our mission is to hit 1 billion in revenue or serve 1 million different customers." Like, those always sound good, they sound impressive. But what happens after you hit it? Like, they don't really motivate employees as much as I think founders and CEOs would like to think. But, numeric goals about hitting a certain revenue milestone, there's always a what's next. So if you hit the goal, then what happens next? And that's why I think, I use the example of actors getting in shape is like, okay, the goal was they had to get in great shape for the movie. And then the movie's over, so they go back to the old behaviors and the old habits. Whereas if you just shift your mindset into thinking about identity, right? Like, I am a healthy person, I love to go to the gym and all that kind of stuff, then you're just always going to do the behaviors that make you successful, and you're not going to slide back. And so I think it's the same thing with a business, right? Like, if you like talking to customers, and it's important to talk to customers in order to keep a really close hold on what do they care about, what are the problems that they're experiencing in our business, what are the areas we need to improve to serve the customer better, you're not going to get to a point where, oh, well, we're 100 million in revenue, so we don't talk to customers anymore. So it's about kind of thinking about the identity of like, I want to have a successful business, not I'm going to stop after we hit this particular goal. The other thing is operating always with a wartime mentality. And of course, this is an analogy, and I'm not referring to literal wartime. But the peacetime wartime analogy was, I think, originated by Ben Horowitz in the book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And the idea is that, like, when you're in peacetime, and I think I operated with a peacetime mentality for far too long when we really should not have been. Because just because things are going well in your business and maybe you're growing, you've raised outside funding, if that's a good thing for you, it can really make not just you as the founder, but everybody in the company feel very comfortable and feel like everything, the business is really healthy and things are humming along. And I think that's when problems really start. Companies start to turn inward on each other when they don't have an external enemy. Taken to the company level, if you don't have an outside threat, if you feel like you're the category winner and you're on top of the world, then naturally people will just start to turn on each other internally at the company, right? You'll get this us versus them mentality between departments or between teams within departments. And so what we found is as soon as things started to get rough for us, and we've had to make tough decisions, we've had to lay people off, and we've had to fight for survival, there's a lot more alignment that happens within the company. People forget about their squabbles or their disagreements, and they all just start rowing in the same direction. And so I think that as a founder, you can stimulate that and encourage that mindset by always looking at the threats, because there are always threats. And even if you feel like things are going really well, markets can change really quickly. People's buyer behavior can change really quickly. Economies change quickly. So there is always a real threat. There's competitive pressures. There's financial pressures. If you operate with a wartime mentality, you're not just dreaming about, new ideas or new markets we might want to enter. It's always feeling like it's a fight for survival. And that's going to come across sounding like you've got a really high pressure culture or it's not a fun place to work. And I think there is a way to balance both. I think you can have a wartime mentality and have everybody in the company really feel like they're working side by side to fight for the company's existence without making it feel like this super high pressure, really negative environment. In any company, you've got to balance the present with the future. And, the higher up level you are as a leader, the more you're thinking about who are we in 3 years? Who are we in 2 years? It can be so easy to get sucked into the day that you don't, see the forest for the trees. And so always balancing, you don't want to stay out of the weeds. You don't want to stay out of the present. You want to be able to look at what's happening today in the business, but balancing that with a future focus and saying, like, where are we going? And making those strategic decisions that might take 3 years to pay off. I mean, in our case, a great example is completely rebuilding our product from the ground up and redesigning it. We knew that was the constraint in the business and that it was going to take 2 or 3 years to pull off. And we had to make those decisions and start executing on that so that we could be the company that we need to be 3 years later. It can be really tempting, and we fell into this trap many occasions in the past where everybody's so worried about getting it right the first time that they are afraid of starting. It's something that can happen if you build the wrong culture, which is people want to overanalyze, right? So you want to be like, okay, we need to build this product or we want to go in this market, and everybody's trying to figure out, okay, well, let's not start until we know we have all the answers. You'll just never get anywhere that way. And so it actually forced us, when we reshaped our values and we reset our values, we chose a value called build the plane while flying it. And it scared the hell out of a lot of people, especially developers, because a lot of them misinterpreted it as being like building low quality software. And when really it means the opposite. And I think that when Mark, our CTO, came aboard only about 1.5 years ago, he started to say it a different way. He started to say, what's the shortest path to value? SPV. If you want to build a road connecting two villages so that they can distribute goods, are you going to build the highway or are you going to just cut a path through the jungle first? And that, his approach to building software is always to cut the path through the jungle, to just figure out what's there before you try to build a nice, perfect, glossy highway. And that's really the idea behind it, is that you want to be evolving towards where you want to go and you want to do it in an iterative way. And I think software is such a perfect example of this, because you can't build the perfect solution the first time. All software requires micro improvements over time that eventually lead to high quality software. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. I share advice just like this in my newsletter, Inside Proposify. You can get it by clicking the link down below.